Welcome to the Ages of Rock podcast with your hosts Bill Algie, Dennis Talbot, and Alan Tate. We are three guys who have one thing in common, a love of rock and roll. Our goal is to talk about all things rock. We hope you find this show intriguing, funny, and occasionally highly opinionated. Enjoy!
Welcome to the Ages of Rock podcast. This is Bill Algie, Alan Tate, Dennis Talbot. This is episode number 160. Woo! Okay, so I was talking to somebody today, and they asked me, so what episode are you guys on? And I was like, I think we're recording 160 tonight. And they were like, you guys have done that many episodes? And I'm like, I know, we're shocked too.
And how many have you listened to? None.
I didn't ask them that question. I'm not stupid.
That's why I tell somebody the other day. They were at work. They were going to do some filming at work, and they said, if anybody has a problem with your face or something showing up on the internet, make sure you sign this paper or whatever. And I'm like, going, dude, I got 100 and something hours of my face looking stupid on the internet.
Are you declaring a conflict of interest for this episode?
I don't want my face to be shown. No,
We'll just declare conflict.
There you go. Awesome.
All right, so you guys got anything for this week? We do have a guest, so he'll be coming up a little bit later, straight from Nashville, and he's gonna talk to us a little bit about. He's another one of those dudes from the Nashville area. It's got his hands in about 35 pots. So,
yeah. And he's got a very interesting story too.
He does. He always has a great story. So he's got some stuff going on now too. So that'll be cool.
Exactly.
You guys have anything for this week?
No, I'm still recovering from the Metallica and the Kiss concerts, trying to soak all of that in.
Dennis?
Oh, I got all kinds of stuff.
Well, dude.
Okay, so I went to Memphis, Tennessee. Kelly and I went down. We left Saturday. Got down there Saturday evening. Went down to Beale Street. We ate at a place called Ita Bita. It's right above the it's a restaurant right there, BB King's place. It's right there on the very edge of Beale Street. I had a really great meal. We came back out. We did walk down Beale Street a little bit. They're having some of the basketball tournament down there right now, so it's pretty packed. Plus the fact that it's the day before on St. Patrick's Day, so that everybody was celebrating early with the green beer and the green attire and the green everything, and some people look green. I mean, they were. We got down there about 5 o'clock, and I told Kelly, I go, these people are fucked up. I mean,
I was in Chicago one time we were all together on St. Patrick's Day
and all that.
Yeah, we were up by Wrigley Field, and the bars were open. It's like 10:30 in the morning. Their bars are open. There's a dude at 10:30 in the morning. He's like laying across the bar, and I'm like, "You are in trouble." It's 10:30 in the morning.
We went
on St. Patrick's Day, and you're just wasted.
We stayed at the Hugh, which used to be called the Madison. That was the same hotel actually that we met Dave Grohl at when we went down there 10 years ago, and. We stayed there, and as we walked down, like I say, it was around 4:30 in the afternoon, and it was really crowded down there because it was in between some of the games, and there was a lot. But like I told Kelly, I was like, man, there's a lot of people here that are not going to be here later because they're really drunk, and they're going to be sleeping or passed out somewhere. So we went to dinner. We came back out. We walked down a little bit. Beale Street has changed fiercely from the last time we were down there 10 years ago. Beale Street 10 years ago, we walked up and down that street. It was all hip hop rap. There was no blues to be found whatsoever on that street. I mean, every place you walked by, it was rap and hip hop. And at nighttime, when we got down there after the concert, it got dangerous. I mean, it was. I've never been very uncomfortable. I've been in New York City. I've been in Chicago. I've been in a lot of places. And that night, Kelly and I both did not feel very comfortable. I mean, it was just like it was too many people, too small of a space, and just didn't feel right. So we had no really inkling to spend any time on Beale Street this trip, going down for this concert. But walking down the street during the day, while we were there, I'm like going, oh, there's blues coming out of this place. Go to the next place. There's blues coming out of this place. We went down to the street. It was almost like Nashville. The windows were open. The doors were open. There's blues coming out of this place. There's I don't hear any hip hop or any of this other, it was actually what Bill Street, for years, I wanted to go down there with my friends and spend a weekend and, to go down there to hear blues and great music, these musicians like you see on that in Nashville, seasoned musicians. Well, this is what it's back to. And I actually talked to a guy later on, and he said the same thing. He says, yeah, it goes, in the last 10 years, this place has changed a lot, and it's back to that. So we went to eat, and then we come back out there, went to see Amos Lee, really neat little thing. We went in there and we met some people that Kelly works with, and he had talked about he'd played the Rhyme in the week before, and Kelly's friends had seen him and said he did an okay job, but he had strep throat. I mean, he had been really sick, but he doesn't cancel any shows. He said when you come from a family with a single mom, he goes, you don't take sick days.
That's a fact, dude.
You learned that in a long time ago. So he says, you get your shots, you do what you have to do, and you work through it. And he sounded really good. He did give some of the singing to some of the other people in the band to help him out, and they did change some keys on some stuff. They even mentioned that. But anyway, I went to the bathroom at one point, about midway through the concert, and there was the T-shirt place that was there, and they also had a girl sitting there saying meet and greets for Amos Lee. And I go, now was this beforehand, or he goes, no, he's doing it afterwards. And I go, oh. And I said, he said, and it showed on the thing, it said he does a little acoustic set too. And she goes, well, he's not doing the acoustic set tonight. But he does, you get a photo and you can get signed and you get to meet him. And I said, you know what? I'm not a huge fan of Amos Lee, but my wife is. So I spent $100 and got her a wristband and a lanyard, and then went back to the seat after going to the bathroom and spending 10 minutes getting all this taken care of. I come back and I said, put your arm out. And I gave her wristband. She goes, what's this for? I said, you're going to meet Amos Lee after the show. So she got to go afterwards and got a blurry picture of her and Amos Lee. I don't know what it is about her and famous people, but they either don't turn out or they're blurry. But I mean, it's not terribly blurry, but it's not the clearest picture I've ever seen.
So you didn't go back with her?
No, I did not. It was $100.
So somebody else took the picture.
Yeah. Well, the girl who I paid the money to, I said, look, she's had some bad problems with it. She goes, I'll take the picture. I said, you make sure it's good. Well, she took 2 pictures, and some are
one just sucked a little bit less
bad
than the other one.
Exactly.
Wow.
But anyway, so then we ended up leaving there and then going back down to Bill Street, actually meeting some people at this place called the Green Beetle, something like that. Went down there and had a beer with those guys. One of Kelly's friends, she's pregnant. I mean, really pregnant. So there wasn't any.
Well, you're
really
either really pregnant or you're not pregnant.
Yeah, no, she's really pregnant. So anyway, they ended up leaving, and then as we walked back, Kelly said, well, let's just go, and there's this place called the Bill Street Cafe right on the very edge of Bill Street, and it's the place that has the real famous chicken and all that stuff. Well, they have a bar that's attached to it that had blues playing beforehand. So we stopped by there. It was around, I don't know, 11:30 or so. We stayed there till actually 1:30. We sit there and listen to these guys tearing the shit up. I mean, Kelly and I had really had a good time sitting here, and ate some chicken and some fries, and had a few beers and had a good time. Got back to the hotel about 1:30 in the morning. So Bill Street. I have a new outlook on Memphis, and unfortunately, it's 5 hours. It's a long drive over there. It's just, I mean, there's just no quick way to get there. And if it would be closer, I would actually rather go there than I would Nashville, to be honest. And it's a little bit less crowded, but anyway, it's a little bit less of the young people not there. You know what I'm saying? Like Nashville is.
I've never been to Memphis. I want to go sometime, but I've never been. I just never.
Oh,
Nope.
And the thing is, you got to go to Graceland. As much as you
Oh,
think
I
it's
would
gonna
definitely go to
be,
Graceland.
it's worth it. There's so much stuff to see there. I'd actually like to go back again
I
myself.
think if you go to Graceland, they should be required to serve peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
Fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
The skillet that he used, or the woman who made his sandwiches, is on the stove actually, still sitting there. So,
I want to go to the King's Barbecue. Did you see the King's Barbecue
No,
on Beale Street? Oh, really? Come on. Okay,
no. I
fine.
mean, there's a bunch of good places. We went to, like I said, we went to a good restaurant. Other than that, though, going to just things that happened real quick this week. Dick Dale passed away yesterday.
Oh,
He was extremely influential pioneer surf rock guitarist. Because I was really big into the Ventures and stuff like that when I was a kid. But Dick Dale was the master pioneer of that, really heavy reverb
That genre. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And he passed away yesterday.
I got one.
Alan.
Former Aussie guitarist Bernie Torme passed away at 66.
Yes, and on the day of on Randy's last concert.
Wow.
Randy performed last concert in Knoxville, Tennessee, this day in 1980. Oh, boy, I wish I had that up. I've seen it like 10 times. 82, I believe. Yes.
That sounds right. You better look it up because if we're wrong, somebody will let us know.
I was actually coming back from getting my braces adjusted from Evansville. And we were about at Alcoa when it came on the radio, and I heard that Randy Rhoads had passed away. I will look that up. But anyway, but yeah, he passed away on the day of Randy's last concert. And I read an article today. They said that Ozzy said if it wouldn't been for Bernie, that he probably would have never got back on stage again. Now that, give that what it,
what it's worth, right?
What it's worth. But he was, anyway, kind of a, you want to hear one more little fact real quick that I read today or saw today?
Sure.
Brian Johnson, and this kind of goes in with where we're going to talk to Greg here in a little bit. Brian Johnson from AC/DC has a show. I don't know what channel it's on, but he goes around interviewing stars, other music people. And there was a advertisement for one of his upcoming shows where he talks to Dolly Parton.
But that's got to be an interview.
Well, she first walked in. She goes, "Brian, do you want to see one of my? Are you here to try on one of my dresses?" And he goes, "Well, no, I'm more of a black T-shirt, jeans kind of guy." And she goes, "Well, this is the highway to heaven, and you guys do the highway to hell." And she even said, she goes, "My husband loves your band," and she says he plays that so loud that it almost blows my wig off. She made the comment, and this is the big headline today on that whole show, is that she went back and looked at these cassettes that she had made. When she writes songs, she used to put them on cassettes. Supposedly, she claims that she wrote Jolene and I Will Always Love You on the same day.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I mean, what a good day for writing songs. You know what I'm saying, though? If you wrote those two songs on the same day,
that's a good day.
God damn, it's a good day. So, for what it's worth, it may not be, maybe it just be, it gets her name in the news. But if that story is true, that's great. So.
All right, people, get your calendars out. Flip to August. Mark the 9th and the 10th. Those are very important dates because the Rockin' Pod Expo 3 are coming at you that day. All right. Nashville, Tennessee again. They're moving it to a different hotel, which is pretty cool. We're going to have a much better space, which is great. The Ages of Rock podcast will be there for sure, and all of our podcast buddies. It's going to be incredible. So check out our Facebook page. We have a link to it, and you can get all your data there. Hey, just to let you know who's going to be there. Let's see. Got to scrolling. Erie Vaughn from Danzig. David Ellefson from Megadeth. You might have heard of that guy. Jeremy Barber from Green Jello, Jack Gibson from Exodus, and Drew Fortier from Zen from Mars. And that's what we've got so far. And I am sure there's a very special guest, from what I understand, that's not been announced yet. That's supposed to be forthcoming. So I thought that might have been announced today, but I haven't seen anything, so I don't think it got announced. But we're going to be there. Our buddies, all the buddies that we've had in the past, they're all going to be there. It's going to be a great event. If you want to learn more about it, it's www.nashvillerockandpodexpo.com. We've got a link on our website, so you can find some stuff there. So are you guys ready to go?
We're ready.
Absolutely.
I think we're ready to go. That's going to be cool as hell. On the Friday night, which I believe is the 9th, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct. Let's see, the Rock and Roll Residency guys are going to be having a show.
Yes.
That'll be a pre-party show for the Rock and Pod Expo guys, and that'll be awesome. If you have never seen them, this will be your chance to get to see them because they kick ass and take names every time they hit the stage. So it'll be really, really cool. So what do you think about that? You guys got
That'd be
anything?
great.
Are you excited?
We were excited. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got actually my room's booked, and
We're gonna get a
we're
room.
booked, and yeah,
I'm
you need to
rooming with you, right?
No, Kelly's going. No.
Wait a minute.
Gotcha.
Kelly's going? Yeah. Alan and I were rooming with you and Kelly.
Yeah.
No.
Here we
He's
are.
bringing his wife too. So.
She's rooming with us
Oh.
too.
Oh, okay. It's one big happy family.
That's
There we
this is the Rock and Pod commune.
go. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. It's like, yeah. We just don't want that whole, that's not sister wives. That'd be nasty. There's no
Hey,
that.
Bill,
Yes.
tell them about the tickets.
Tell them about the tickets. All right, let's see. I'm popping on the ticketing thing. Give my my Windows PC 25 minutes to pull this shit up. Hey, look, there we are. There's a picture of us right there on there. Check it out. All right, so here we go. You can purchase tickets online, and here they go. Come up. Okay, you can get early bird admission for $25. You can get general admission for $20. They will have T-shirts and all kinds of stuff to purchase. If you're a podcaster, ticket is $50 or $100. They got different levels, and $200. So I think
now, when you say a ticket, you mean a table.
yes, it says podcaster ticket on the website, but I think it means a table.
No, well, the $200 is for
a table.
Is a table and includes everybody in the podcast, and it includes. It's kind of like the VIP, not a VIP, but it's the premium platinum ticket.
It's kind of
The other
all
ones-
access.
Exactly,
Yes.
that's what we got.
Yeah.
So,
That's what we got because we're special because we're all access.
which I'll let you guys know that you're part of it.
There are.
I was just getting ready to say, Dennis is about to start hitting us up for some money.
Yeah, I just remembered I did that the other day. I was like, oh shit, I got my credit card bill. I'm like, oh yeah.
There are VIP passes available, so you got to check those out. They're $50, $100, and $200. Those will get you into special admission early and get you to special guests that will be kind of separated.
I think there's some
the cool thing they're
classes
doing-
too. You know,
What?
some classes or something too.
Yeah.
I think.
So one of the things they're doing this year is some of the podcasters are going to be kind of, I don't know if they're teaching classes or giving some classes about how to start a podcast, how it all works, that kind of stuff. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to teach you everything not to do for a podcast so we can continue having art.
Hey, maybe we should go. We learned something.
We're going to go sit through that and see how we can get our numbers up. So there you go. But anyway, it's going to be a great weekend. I can't wait. It's been a blast the last 2 years. I'm glad it's still going and it's getting better. So that's the cool part. It's becoming a little more professional every time. So
Yeah,
shout
and
out
real
to Zinzak.
that exactly. Yeah.
Yep. To Chris and those guys, everybody that's helping him. It takes an army. It's not a one-man show, and but he's doing a great job, and I really appreciate it. So I think on behalf of all of us, kick some ass there, Chris. We appreciate it, man.
Yep, exactly.
All right, what do we got left? Anything?
We have a guest.
We have a guest. All right, so let's talk to Greg Mangus.
Greg, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Hello, how's everybody?
How are things down the Nashville way?
Well, they are rocking and rolling. Like I was saying earlier, I was listening to Thin Lizzy's for St. Patrick's Day and Live and Dangerous today in honor of you guys, getting ready to do this podcast. So things are really good. Very happening down there.
Cool, man. So you got a few irons in the fire. Is that right?
Well, they things get cold and then something else heats up. And I'm still doing the Mangus, the AC/DC thing with Phil Schaus and Jeremy Asbrock, those guys from the Residency, and Paulie Simmons, and still doing that. And I was singing for the NFL for CBS, doing some like Guns N' Roses, AC/DC type stuff where we would change the lyrics. But that ended with the Super Bowl, and now I'm looking to do something new. I might do kind of a guitar-driven rock thing, very sort of Eddie Money, Rod Stewart-y kind of stuff, which I loved growing up.
Cool. Will that be local stuff, or is that something that you're going to get to take out somewhere?
I think something that we can get to take out somewhere. Trace Ritter has moved here from LA, and he's a big Eddie Money fan. And I think there's kind of a hole for that kind of, there's a lot of guys doing 80s rock, a lot of guys doing metal, but there's nobody doing like those singer guys like Eddie and Benny Mardones and Rod Stewart and that kind of stuff. So I'd love to, I'm actually in the process of putting that together. Hopefully it'll be out not too long from now.
Cool. Is that going to be a record? I mean, is that going to be a record you're doing, or is that going to be just live stuff?
That's what we're trying to figure out, man. Do we want to just try to, play those songs that nobody plays and go out, or should we start writing again? And I think I haven't written in a long time. I had pretty big success in the 80s as a writer. And you know what? And my wife's a songwriter, so I'm thinking maybe it's time to start doing it again.
Cool.
That would be cool. Benny, I haven't heard the word Benny. I would like to. I love that song. You go back to that one song, but it's like going, God, I'd like to hear somebody play that song live.
Well, let's talk about this. So I play with Sandy Gennaro here a lot, and he plays in the Greg Mangus All-Stars, and we had a Bad Company tribute that opened the first Rock and Pod Expo, and we did that for a long time. He's one of my best friends. That's him on that whole record. So that's him that does that doom chicka boom the beginning of that. Well, that guy was a hell of a singer. There were all these guys that nobody ever heard of that were huge influences on me. The David Johansen solo records, the ones in between the Dolls and Buster were huge. The guy who did Hot Cherry before Hardline did it. I can't remember his name right now. Oh well. Anyway, there's all these kind of singers, rock and roll, scratchy voiced, Frankie Miller, those kind of guys that I just loved growing up, as much as I loved Angel and Thin Lizzy and Stars and UFO and the Babies. Those were my 5 bands. And I just would love to be that guy, because I don't hear a lot of that in singers nowadays. I don't know. It's like a dying breed, I guess.
Exactly. No, we actually met you the first Rockin' Pod. You came by our booth. We were down there, like I said, we were green as grass. That we had just started this podcast, and we were down there, and you came up actually to our booth, and you told us a story, and then you left to give us their name. And I think Bill wrote down your name or something at that point, or number. I can't remember what it was. And then I came home and I pulled up YouTube, and I'm like going, holy shit. This guy does sound like Bon Scott. He can do AC/DC. He is, because we didn't really know the Nashville scene at that point. We hadn't spent a lot of time listening to, we weren't keen to the rock and roll residency and all that whole bit. But you told us a story down there that day. You want to go a little bit on that?
Oh, you were talking about the AC/DC,
yes.
the almost AC/DC.
Yes. That's a great story.
Okay, I'll go. You can cut it whenever you want. So when I heard that Brian was leaving the group, or had been asked to leave, or whatever the thing is, I immediately called a friend of mine who was a pretty major Australian rock star, and a great songwriter, and just a good buddy of mine. And I said, hey, what do you think I should do? He's like, well, I'll call Angus. Not I'll call management, or I'll call Angus. So I guess he called Angus. And then I kind of pulled every favor I had from, I think I might have called Corabi for help, John Corabi, my favorite rock singer. And I might have called Deep Purple, or I really can't remember, but I just pulled every string I could. Right. So then I guess I got through to him, and I was bartending at the time, and was taking out the garbage one night at 3:00 in the morning. And I got an email from their management company. It said, hey, which is management company and publishing company, hey, can you send us some videos, a bio, and how do you spell your last name, which I love because they were spelling it Magnus instead of Mangus, like Angus with an M. So, I told my boss, hey, I'm taking a break. And I sent AC/DC a couple videos. And I got another email the next night saying, hey, can you send us some more Brian? Because I sent him a lot of Bon Scott. So I sent him the Brian stuff I had. And, okay, that it was a little while. And then the rock and roll residency was in full swing. And our buddy Robin Zander came out with Dax, who plays drums for Cheap Trick, and they came out to jam with us. And Florida is one of my homes, Clearwater Beach, Florida, and Robin lives down there, and Robin's really good friends with Brian Johnson. So, and this video is on YouTube, and so in the middle of Long Way to the Top, if you want to rock and roll, Robin says, hey, listen, stops the show and says, Brian's one of my best friends. If there's anyone that can replace him, it should be this fucking guy right here. And I kind of got choked up because, Robin Zander is also one of the best there is in rock and roll. So I'm like thinking, because I thought the whole time, this isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. Then I start thinking, well, then AC/DC sees that video. And then things got kind of official, talking about setting up, possibly meeting them, just getting in a room with them. And then these things, like around Nashville, there were these billboards from hippie radio that said Mangus for Angus, which I thought was great. and they were playing, AC/DC, and they'd be like, oh, there's a local guy. And so, I started to get nervous and started to get on the treadmill at the Y, singing like the live, whatever their live records are, trying to make sure I could do it. And then I was in a bar. My wife had gone to a show and I couldn't get in. So I was in a bar and I read this thing online. Some rock magazine had said, hey, here's the top 6 replacements according to their management company or however they got them. And here's who's looking at the job. And I'm looking at, Rob Halford. Well, there's a guy that I've loved for a while. And then there's my friend Lizzie Hale. And then the third picture was my big fat face. And the guy wrote, I was like, what the fuck? And the guy wrote this really nice thing, like, this is the guy. He's the right age. He's a bartender. He knew more about me than I knew. Like, he can sing both Brian and Bon. And I really thought then that it was going to happen. I was going to get in a room with them. Some other stuff, that's kind of inside stuff happened. And about a couple of months, I guess, before I was supposed to do anything, I got a phone call from someone in the Aerosmith camp. It might have been Graham Whitford or Brad Whitford, or somebody said, Axl's doing the gig. And I knew about it a couple of days before they announced it. And to be honest with you, man, I pulled over and cried. I did. I got choked up. My wife went out and bought a Range Rover. Like, she was ready to go. But it really was, because it kept getting more real and it kept getting more real. And guys that I really respect were going to bat for me and calling these guys and saying, man, this is your dude. The radio station in Los Angeles, the big rock station, whatever it is, whatever the KLO, I don't even know what it is. The big rock station was like, yeah, they're like, there's a dude in Nashville. He's the guy. And friends of mine who are, actors and screenwriters and all that stuff from high school were like, Mangus, is this you? So, oh, well, I'm still hoping. I'm still hoping. And I told him when Axl got the gig, I remember I said, kind of being a smart ass and kind of not, like, well, here I am if he starts stage or if he's too late. But apparently, what I saw, he was pretty kick-ass. He's not my favorite singer, though. I love that first Guns record. But apparently, what I saw, he was great.
The thing was, though, whenever that happened and whenever they announced him being the singer, I have zero interest in listening to Axl Rose singing AC/DC as much as I have Axl Rose fronting Kiss. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't fit. And I know what they were looking at. They were wanting to put butts in seats, and that's what they will do. That having Axl there, you're going to get the Axl fans and the AC/DC fans. But to hear Axl sing AC/DC, I have no interest in that. and that's why.
Do you know how much more of
those shows?
How much more of a great story it would be? Because remember, Brian was a bouncer, and he was
Right.
He was in not Smokey. He was in Dodgy. What band was he in? Scouser or something. I can't remember the name of it. It means Northern in England. I can't remember what it is. So he was in some band, and he was working at a bar. It would have been just a great story. And I remember talking to I'm going to name drop a lot, so watch your feet. I remember talking to Peter, who was the bass player in Accept at the time, and I was like, man, here's what we would do. I would just have a big picture of Bon Scott and say, this is the reason I sing. One of them, I know I'm the new guy. Let's fucking rock and roll, and then do something great like Whole Lotta Rosie or Hell's Bells or something that's really hard. And I don't think anybody would have given a damn after that. I think people would have been like, I love this guy, because I would love to see that story. I love kind of stories, man. I love if I go see some dude who's, crawled his way up and he's kicking ass with some band. I know everybody likes the original thing, but I can't I saw Skid Row recently, and that singer's just great, man. Great. And of course, there will always be people who bitch about, I want this singer or that singer, because that's the original magic. But
Foreigner's a great example of that. I mean, if you look at Foreigner and you look at Kelly compared to Lou Gramm, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that band is phenomenal.
He's great. He's great. They're great. People knock him. He's great. I hope he's listening to this because he is a pain in the ass. He was really not nice to me last time I met him. And the same manager. We had the same manager for years, and he still just blew me off. Oh, I'm doing a record. I can't talk. But their drummer lives here. He's a great guy. Now, that being said, that shit's hard to sing, and Kerry kills that stuff. And he's a great front man. See, that's what I kind of grew up like. I grew up, my absolute hero is Rod Stewart. Like, I loved David Lee Roth. I love just frontmen, great entertainers. And Kerry's a great frontman. And I don't see a lot of those nowadays,
Well, and to say that too, I mean, you can replace a guitar player, you can play a bass, replace a bass player, and you can replace a drummer or whatever. But to replace that frontman singer, that's a tough position to fill. Period.
A lot of these bands, man, they hire good singers, but they're not frontmen. They just don't have the personality. And a lot of those guys, whether you like them or not, like Kevin Dubrow or whoever, just these great personalities. It's very hard shoes to fill. And then the thing is, do you get a guy that's a mimic, or do you just try to get somebody who's a little bit different? That's why Brian Johnson was so great, because he was a little bit different. And anyway.
He wasn't trying to be Bon Scott, but he brought. I mean, he basically there's two sets of AC/DC. There's Brian Johnson AC/DC, and then there's Bon Scott AC/DC. But he could cover both of them. But like you said, he brought his own game.
I thought Bon Scott was much more of a soul singer to me. Like, and the funny thing about AC/DC, and then we'll go on to another topic if you want to, is like the guys I play with here, when we do Mangus, which is a Bon Scott thing. We do all Bon Scott, right? And it's great players, but everybody thinks, oh, Bon Scott is easy, or those AC/DC is easy till you start to play it. And there's nuances and little things and soul and great phrasing. And I'm a Bon Scott guy. Love Brian, but I'm a Bon Scott guy. And and it's just those songs. I think it's more like a boogie rock band and then a hard rock, almost metal kind of thing. But
you're exactly right, because like I said, the Bon Scott era of AC/DC, that was a extremely blues-based, kind of really gutsy, like I said, off-the-cuff stuff. When Brian came in, it got to be more of that three-chord rock, that stuff like that. But that early AC/DC, that's some tough shit to play, dude. I've played in cover bands. It's tough.
So right? There's weird drum fills and weird licks.
Jeez.
It's like the Ramones. It's like people say, "Oh, the Ramones are simple to play." No, it's fucking not. You got to do it right. Anyway. Enough of AC/DC, even though I love them. Hey, speaking, I'm doing AC/DC this Saturday here in Nashville at Little Harpeth Brewery with with the Denman boys, that band Denman that's so great.
Denman.
They have a band.
Yes.
Yeah, they have a band called Fade to Blackened, which is like a best of Metallica. And then there's a Sad Wings, which is a Judas Priest tribute, which is going to be opening the show. And then we hit. So I mean, I'm still doing it, man. I still love it. Don't get me wrong.
There's so much talent in Nashville now. It's just retarded. I mean, it's just really ridiculous as far as how much there is down there. I mean, it's just becoming, and it's not country either. There's a lot of rock down there.
Dude, cool. It's so humbling. We do the rock and roll residency. The next one's April 5th at Mercy Lounge. They're doing it like not monthly now, but when they can, because they're out with Ace and whatever. Anyway, all singers think, oh, I'm the shit or whatever. Well, I'll get up there and do something. Wow, I really delivered. I really knocked Kill the King out of the park or some shit, And then I'll be backstage and I'll hear somebody else. I'm like, what the? And it'll be Lizzie Hale or it'll be, some other singer. And I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to drink a Zima and go home. Like, it's so humbling. Derek fucking St. Holmes, man. I have to follow Derek every time. Like, he's so great, And then there's a lot of guys that aren't even really famous that are just really, really great singers. And like I said, it's so humbling. Every time you think you're doing it, some guy will just put you right back in place. And that might be good for most of us singers.
It was interesting. We came down and went to all of us went down to the last rock and roll residency when they ended it on was that a Tuesday night or whatever night it was? And
yeah.
So we came down there and went to that show. And somebody asked me when we got back, well, how was the show? And I said, I've been to hundreds of concerts, and I can tell you that was probably one of the best things I've ever seen. Just the pure talent that it didn't matter who played. The next person was better or as good, or just they had their own thing going on that was just incredible. It was like, 3.5 hours or 4 hours or however long it lasted, because it lasted forever, of just nonstop in your face talent. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, right. That thing is so amazing. Did you see Highway Star?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The whole thing too, though, it's not a competition. Though it's not. The whole thing is not a competition of egos. It's basically great musicians getting together, having fun, trying to do the best.
The funny thing about all that is it's like a self-editing thing. Like if someone was a dick, if someone was a wiener, if someone was kind of had bad attitude, they just get kind of squeezed out, or the boys don't invite them back. And but we did Highway Star with Roger Glover and Don Airey, and it was in my top 5 musical moments of my life. And I've sang with those guys a couple of times, but the time we did it with them at the residency was just unbelievable. And we retired it. So we brought it back for the last song of that night for me. And then I think they did one more, an sensational Alex Harvey band song. But man, that thing, like I said, is just so humbling. And that's how this town is, which makes me happy though, but I still think that it's still a couple of tiers. It's like a class system. There's still like, the higher up guys, and there's the guys in the middle, and there's the guys in the lower. And I still see a little bit of that, like I would see in New York or LA, just a little bit, Do
you ever, I have a question. I was wondering, do you ever get a call or anything to play or to sing on any of the country artist records that they may have seen you anywhere? Have you ever done that?
No, I'm trying to think if I did one time, did a rock. No. The only thing that's come out of is the NFL thing, going and singing the NFL. And I've done a couple of commercials, and I sing for the Titans, some stuff like just ridiculous, like, oh, get loud. And they want that AC/DC or Dio-ish kind of feel. No, but I've made friends with a couple of country artists who come to see the shows, who come to see the rock thing, but I've yet to get called to do a duet. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. It'd be just a different.
Really
I think it'd be kind of neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. And I've seen you do. Like I said, I've looked at you on YouTube on a lot of stuff, and you do have a range. I mean, you're just not like one. You're not just AC/DC. You do have a range, but you've got that gritty kind of. You know what I'm saying? It would work out good with a country deal. So
it's all I ever wanted to be was like. So my daddy was English, my real dad. I had a stepfather and my real dad, and my English dad loved soul music. So, as a boy, the way that my little girl now, I have a little girl, the way she's listening to Rod and Southside Johnny and stuff, I was listening to Wilson Pickett and Otis Redding and that kind of stuff, and that led me to Rod. And then I always wanted to be scratchy voiced, and isn't that funny? Like, and I guess it just, you spend years trying to sound like somebody, and I don't know, man, in New York, I was in New York for 20 years. And the best times I had in New York, I was the house band, one of the house bands at Windows of the World, the restaurant on top of the World Trade Center. And I did big band. I had a jump swing band that was like Sinatra meets Louis Jordan called Set 'em Up Joe on a BMG imprint. And we toured all over America, man. And we were always like the cheap opening act for Huey Lewis and George Thorogood, and in between those kind of bands playing Taste of Iowa festivals, and I loved it. And that was swing, almost Sinatra type stuff. Oh well. So thank you about that, about range. I wouldn't mind doing some of that stuff again one day.
You said you were in New York for 20 years. How long have you been in Nashville?
Yeah. Got here in 2002. After I went to South Beach to do some writing with a really successful, famous writer, and it just did not work out, man. It did not work out. And don't do drugs. Miami floats on cocaine, if you know what I'm saying. Like, just don't. You could be going to church, and the guy would be like, absolve your sins, want to bump. It was a little too much. So I split and came up here, didn't know anybody, and it took me. There was a lot of family tragedy happened in those first 6 years. It took me till about 2008 to get up on my feet. And then I sang with the Long Players, and Bill Lloyd and the Long Players, a great, great thing here. And that gave me some legitimacy. And, it's funny you say about calls, because, like, for instance, did you read that Mick Mars is looking for a singer?
Yeah,
so
I
Mick's
saw
looking
that.
for a singer.
Yep.
Yeah, I had heard that before years ago, and he and I have a mutual friend. And so I've reached out, and so that's just Nashville, though. I kind of hope and think that something like that will happen. That I was having a hard time, and Derek St. Holmes, another hero, man. We had seen, I was with him at a Sidemen, the great movie Sidemen, you should all see. And he was like, don't worry, the cream rises to the top. And that helps me during the times when I'm like, fucking bartending like I was, or struggling when something doesn't happen,
So are you going to try out for the Mick Mars thing, or will you send any demos for that, or?
This is, probably shouldn't even talk about this. I just emailed him today, so we'll see.
Cool.
He and I played together. We played together with Kenny Olson, another badass who lives here. We played the Dean Markley NAMM show together, and just knocked it out of the park, man. Did a bunch of really cool, fun shit, Zeppelin and AC/DC and Jeff Beck group, and
that's cool.
And he and I got along. He and I got along really, really well. And right after that, I called him, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm your guy." And then I didn't hear anything back, because I'm sure there was all the Motley stuff that he had to deal with. And
they got that movie coming out here in what?
Yeah,
22nd?
man, it'll be interesting to see. Right, it'll be interesting to see if that contract holds. Right?
Yeah. They may be paying that $1 million fine, and saying like, you know what, we're going to
and making $120 million.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't think that's going to happen for them.
No, I don't.
That last tour, nothing. I like Motley Crue. I love their music. I've liked them forever and a day. But that last time we saw them on the the second night of the tour, or third, or the third night.
Well, we went to Indianapolis. We saw that Shed tour, and I was just absolutely.
Oh my gosh!
I seen them in Theater of Pain tour back in their worst, when they're drug wise, and it was better than this one. It was just not good. It was, I don't know. I just wasn't.
Yeah, man, I saw him a long, long time ago, and it was a rock show. It's like I like. I'm gonna get so much shit this, but I like fucked up Aerosmith more than I do Save the World.
Yeah.
Hit record, 13-year-old girl hit record Aerosmith, and I'm 50 something, 54, 55, 54, and so I saw like
I'm
the
50,
Rock's
we're
tour.
53, so we're around there. So.
But so I got to see I saw the Rock's tour. I even saw the Rock in a Hard Place tour with Jimmy Crespo and Rick Dufay, man, and I loved that shit. Tyler was falling all over that was rock and roll. I just love it, man. I just love.
I saw Aerosmith the first. Actually, it was the last tour they did before Permanent Waves came out. So it's right before they got Permanent Waves was
You
when
mean
they kind of
Permanent Vacation?
Permanent Vacation.
Permanent Vacation.
I'm sorry, I
Before
got
they put out a Rush record.
Yeah,
which is a great album also. But no, Permanent Vacation. It was right before
1984. It's called the Back in the Saddle tour. They didn't have a record deal. I saw it in Rockford with Robin. Speaking of which, with Robin, and
right.
It is the they didn't have a deal. Apparently, Steven had taken a swing at Tom with his mic stand, and the band was going to break up. It wasn't going to work. They were unbelievable.
Oh, it was
night.
great.
It's the third best show I've ever seen in my life. Third best.
Actually, there was people leaving, and it's like people were walking out of the venue. This was outside. It was at Mesker, and they do Dream On, and the piano comes down out of the thing, and they're playing, and people are walking out. I'm like, what the fuck are you walking out for? Dream On's getting ready to start, and I tell you what, it was kick ass. I mean, it was a great show. But like you said, they were at that point. They didn't have really a future at that point. They were just kind of at the end.
They had Tim Collins. That's a name you won't hear a lot. Who saved their fucking lives, and he just gets no recognition. I think the company's Collins Barrasso or something like that. But Tim is the one that threw him in a van and got him to rehab and drove him to the Run DMC thing, which saved their life. I mean, but I like Michael Lee Smith from Stars, one of my favorite singers, and we're friends on Facebook. And every once in a while, he posts some stuff about how bad they were, like what bad boys they were. But that's my rock and roll. I want David Lee Roth swigging Jack Daniels and having some girl picked out by the numbers. I don't want him drinking hemp tea and being politically correct. I just, it's not my thing. Give me Phil Lynott. Are there, is anybody with any Irish? And I'm like, that kind of, I just love that. I always think rock and roll is supposed to be dangerous.
Yeah. But, and the thing is, they sounded good for a long time, or no, for a short period, and you get these spurts of stuff, but unfortunately, like with Phil, they don't last, they'll burn out, and it's unfortunate. Maybe the green tea is good at the end. Maybe we get a little bit more out of them at some point, but
you have a point there. I was being a little bit of a smartass, but you have a point. But I still, okay, so no heroin, no heroin. But I would still love to see Phil, when heroin killed him, with a couple of glasses of wine in him, a couple of glasses, whatever he drank, just getting up and rocking and spilling blood on the stage. I still like it when it's got a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I'm like that. I mean, I will always. I was doing an interview with him. The guy, he was asking me and a couple other people about having a drink, and people were like, no, it's a job. And I was like, fuck yes, I do. Just like the Faces, shot in a beer before, and maybe a couple. You got it. That's just
do the Cobra. Do the Cobra.
Yeah.
You got to do the Cobra first. Get a few in you, and then just mellow out at that point.
I speak just for myself because there's a lot of my friends who are sober, but anyway, that rock and roll, from dangerous rock and roll, I just kind of miss it. And I am definitely a child of the 70s and 80s. So there was definitely excess, but it was never really, what I was around was never really dangerous at that. It was all kind of about having fun and rocking, and maybe you drank just a wee bit too much, but it wasn't really about drugs. It was more about meeting chicks and playing great songs and blowing the next band off the stage. It's a hard thing to pinpoint that time period. It was just not. It almost seems innocent now.
Oh, it's just very vanilla. I mean, it's you can't. Part of that is culture, right? Back in the day, you saw a picture that appeared in a Cream magazine of David Lee Roth holding a Jack Daniels bottle that happened a month after it happened, and now you see somebody holding a Jack Daniels bottle within 3 seconds of when they're doing it. And so, that whole bad boy image thing, I don't know that the record labels wouldn't put up with that stuff because they're not,
Yeah,
record labels don't put
I'm
up with
with
it because the record labels aren't in it anyway. But anymore, it's all mostly done independently. But I don't, people don't want to deal with that stuff anymore. And it's just,
Dude,
it's taking all the fun out of it.
You are so dead on. This could be this could be a TED Talk on this because it really could, because people have, and I'm taking nothing away from anybody who's gone through anything really bad. Let's acknowledge that. But fucking hell, man, like this guy touched my arm and flirted with me. Well, fuck, like that's rock and roll. Like it's about having a drink and singing to the girl in the front row. It's, and I'm not talking about, and I don't mean to be politically correct or incorrect. I'm not talking about rape or hassling anybody. I'm talking about having fun, having a drink, dancing. Just people are so uptight, and it just, I almost think we're going to see a huge swing back to where the next generation of kids is going to be like, fuck this, we're having a good, we're having a good time. You almost kind of see it now.
We had that. What's that? Was it a Puddle of Mud? That guy has been so whacked out here recently. We've had a few these stars that get a little bit too much booze in them. You know what I'm saying? That was it. The Puddle of Mud guy keeps getting all trashed out. And
Wes, what's his face?
No, Stained. Dude from Stained.
No,
I don't know what his problem is. He gets up there and says stupid shit all the time. He's like,
I don't know what drugs with him. He's just an asshole.
See, but I'm not saying all things in moderation. It's like like Rod says. Rod has a couple glasses of wine now. Those days are over with the faces where you drink 6 pints and then have a bar on stage, which I fucking love. But I mean, it just seems
have
like
a few beers and get loose up.
Yep.
I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, like I said, we still, I always did that before. I never drank to excess whenever we played, but have a couple beers and then usually one a set, just kind of sip on it, just kind of keep you loosened up a little bit, just kind of, because you don't want to get too stiff and,
Well, let's talk about some rock and roll. I want to tell you guys about I talked about my 5, what I called the 5 unknowns, which were the Babies, Angel, Thin Lizzy, Stars, and UFO. And I've been lucky enough to recently, in the past 2 years or so, open for the Babies and Angel, and they were great. Man, they were great. I mean, John Waite's not in the Babies, but Bisha sings his arse off. Angel is, frank and punky.
Right.
And I cried, man. I hate to say this, but it was for the Rock and Pod Expo. I did my set, and I was in the front row, halfway through all the young dudes, which when I was a little boy, I thought was an Angel song because it was on Live Without a Net, and I hadn't figured out that people didn't write songs, And he handed me the mic, and I'm holding that white mic stand, singing all the young dudes. It's just, I just wish 12-year-old, 11-year-old Greg could just see this because it just stuff means so much to me. I'm still like a nerd. I still have these rock and roll dreams, which make me sometimes feel really ridiculous, but yet it's my favorite shit. And the residency always has great people come and play. And, I'll do a show and someday I'll come backstage and it'll be some fucking guitar player that I loved, or I'll run into Dave Mustaine at Whole Foods and we'll talk about AC/DC, or Jonathan Cain, who was in the Babies, and Bob Ezra, and I'll run into him at when I was bartending, and we'll talk. Just, that's one thing I love about Nashville. And I will never kind of get over that stuff saved my life, because I was in Largo, Florida, man. I didn't know what I was going to do. This is right before I moved to New York. Like, how am I going to get into business? And I joined a band called Lefty, which was the hot band in the Southeast United States. And that's, it's like an all-star. Johnny Lee Middleton, who was in Sabotage and was in Trans-Siberian, was our bass player. Kenny McGee, who was in Juliet, great band called Juliet, and Heartless. He was the other guitar player, and I was the front man. And that was my college. I was 17. And we were out on the road. Literally, I was working in the mall, auditioned, got the gig. I was out with Cheap Trick, opening for them.
Wow.
Going out and playing and doing bars every night. And that's back when the bars were packed on a Wednesday night, and you were doing 4 or 5 sets, playing our own stuff, playing Def Leppard, playing Kiss. You want to talk about cutting your teeth. And that Florida had like Mark Twain's 49 Ship Mining Company, the Treehouse, Penrod's. Like there's a whole circuit. You can make a great living I don't know. I'm just saying that kind of rock and roll where I started out, I still love.
Right.
It's kind of come full circle, singing Rod Stewart with the Residency, you know, the first songs that I sang with this band down in Florida. And then, you know, to just be weird, like after that, I worked for Cameo. I wrote for the funk band Cameo, got my first gold record writing for them. Signed a record deal to Polygram, did a record with Larry Blackman, you know, Word Up and all that kind of stuff. Did with that guy. The record never came out. It was like a Mother's Finest heavy metal funk thing that I really loved. And so, I mean, I still love, it's just weird how my career has gone, like from that. And then I was in New York. I was in a band called Fine Line with Yossi Fine and Steve Wolf, other guys who went on to be famous. And, you know, it's all these almost we were signed. And we were part of that Black Rock Coalition thing that was happening with Living Color. We played with them a lot, 24/7 Spies. It's just funny. I always seem to be either, you know, 4 years too early or 10 years too late or 20 years too late.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah.
Or however that works. That was pretty dead.
I hear that a lot. But you know what I think of, dudes? There was a band called Dorian Gray in Florida, and the drummer was John Oswald, who is Janie Lane, right? So we played the same shows with them and might have even dated the same girls and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, Warren comes out, not my cup of tea, but great fucking first record, great songs. And they, you know, he opened for Paul Stanley and he couldn't get into the China Club and I got him in and we hung out. He was great. And then a year later, he's a massive rock star. And we were at the same place, the China Club, and he shit all over this girl that we've known for years, like really rude to her. And I said to him, and funny enough, Skid Row was there. I said, you know, today's warrant is tomorrow's quiet riot if you don't watch your mouth. And
good words to live by.
Well, I don't want to, you know, everybody talks about Janie being a saint now that he's gone, bless his heart, but he was really bad to people. So I went to see Pat Travers one night here in town, and there's this big guy, and these girls are like, that's him, that's not him. I said, I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, that's Janie Lane. I said, no, man, I played with him for years. They said, no, that's Janie Lane. And he was as bald as I am, but hadn't shaved his head and big, you know, and really miserable. And so I almost wonder, like, is it worse to never really have made it and been successful, or to have like been on TV, you're the guitar player in Tough or White Lion or whatever. I don't know any of these guys. And then you're, not that they are, but then you're working at a video store. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
How hard, and you're covered in tattoos. So what the fuck are you going to do? Answer phones at a marketing thing, you know, which I've heard some major stars did.
And of course, if you're in doing something in public too, the person going up to you and go, oh, weren't you this, or weren't you that? You know, that's got to make you feel real good also, you know. I am that person. I'm just not that. I'm not doing what I used to do, kind of thing, you know.
Have you guys had Dee Snider on your show?
No, but I would love to.
Okay, so Dee, you know, people think different things about him, but I met him.
I love
and I was bartending.
He's awesome.
Well, I had opened for him, not a lot, 15 times, let's say, at Lemoore and some other like hard rock places in New York when I was in New York. And so he's at the bar, I'm bartending. And I don't think he was drinking. I bought him dinner or something. I paid for his dinner. I said, you know, listen, man, I want to tell you something. You just were always really good to me. And so I'm a little embarrassed because I'm bartending. And dude, I shit you not. And if he denies this, as big as he is, I'll get in his face. His eyes watered. He said, brother, man, I was working at a computer repair store. He said he had lost everything, and he was riding his fucking bike to work, and he was making like $300 a week. And, you know, people would be like, aren't you Dee Snider? He'd be like, nah, man, I just look like him. And he'd wear his hair back. and, you know, he said that he just kept going. He got the right girl. I think he stopped drinking. I don't know. It's not for me to say, but he did something. He talked about the right girl and, you know, got himself back out with Twisted Sister and doing that thing in Vegas he was doing, that like Dee Snider's Rock Circus or whatever it was. And so, you know, I respect anyone that's honest like that, like the singer for Tesla, who I don't know yet. I know the drummer, but I don't know the singer, who talked about, man, I was DJing in a strip club. Like all these guys want you to believe, oh, I live off my royalties. Well, no.
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 No, the people
You
who
know,
the company you work for are living off your royalties, and you're not.
Yeah.
You don't have a dime coming. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
that's what happened in the '80s. All the producers and all the record company executives got rich, and you didn't get dick. You got these really shitty contracts that you thought you were signing to get rich, and then you didn't.
No, I can relate to that. I know. I mean, and you can't do Rocklahoma every week. I mean, there's for bands. There's more work for bands like the kind of bands that play there, which I love. I mean, dude, I fucking loved Rat and Kix, Kix, as much as I love Kiss, but especially Steve. I mean, Stephen Christie and those guys. Those songs were unbelievably great. Kix, Steve Whiteman, one of the best frontmen and singers I've ever seen, and never ever has let me down. Like I saw him back when Cool Kids came out. I saw him 2 years ago here in Nashville. Fucking great, right? But I mean, there's more work I think for those guys now, but I always wonder about the ones that are in between. Anyway, that's why it's kind of weird. I wonder, is it better to never have been really famous or an MTV guy, and then how do you reconcile that?
Yeah.
When you're driving Uber or whatever you have to do, that's just some crazy shit.
That's a whole nother topic and a whole nother show.
Yeah, it was interesting. We had Brian Durbin. I don't know if you know who Brian Durbin is, but Brian Durbin from he was on American Idol, and now he's fronting Quiet Riot. So
I saw him sing the other night, man.
Yeah, he sung.
He tore up Judas Priest the other night.
Yeah,
at the residency show.
Yeah. So Brian was one of those guys that he hit it as big as he was going to get on American Idol, and he toured, and he had a record coming out and all this kind of stuff. And he told us, we interviewed him a couple weeks ago, and he just said, it all went to my head. And all of a sudden you're much bigger than you really think you are. And then suddenly it falls apart, and you're like, I got to get a job, and like,
I got to do something.
And I got to
the limos stop coming, and the deals stop coming. And it's like going, unless you do it yourself.
And he said, there is the other side of that. So yeah, to your point, there's, and now he's fronting Quiet Riot because somebody got again, like what you're talking about, somebody got a tape of him doing some of that to the right person, and to Frankie, and that, got him.
He worked with Ross too, the guitar player, and
so that helped him. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine. Well, just think about it. So what happens to those bands that are big bands? I mean, even Kiss right now, they're going to end at some point, and then at some point, what are you going to do? I guess Paul's going to take his kids to school, but other than that, I don't know. I mean, because it ends for everybody someday, right?
Well, those guys have been set for life for a while, but I'll talk about let's talk about Stars or Angel or UFO, my guys, right? Like big enough in fucking. I lived for Circus Magazine, Rock Scene, and Cream. Like I lived for it. Those guys that were in there and they were on my walls, and so I would love to ask, what did you guys do from '82 till now when you're touring? It's just, I'm a little morbidly fascinated with it, not just because of my own situation, because I was never famous, but because of the bands from what is it, The Decline of Western Civilization, or whatever that movie is.
Yeah, there's a whole freaking scroll of these bands, like you said, that were important to some people at some time, but now they're not. Where are these people now?
Yeah, wasn't it Brian from Kix that was on TV? I don't know which one was one of the guitar players saying, "Yeah, I paint signs."
Yeah, I was getting ready to bring that up.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, because I was young enough not to know reality too much yet. I was still having some money coming in. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? He was in Kix. What do you mean he's but there was a band that was never, they were big, but they were never fucking Aerosmith huge, But I wonder about that. There was a band in New York, and I hope somebody hears this, called Gutter Boy. And they were like, again, not my cup of tea, but a cross between U2 and the Ramones. And I had a buddy who played with them, and they were in ads, and they were opening for Bowie or U2 or something. And the record came out, and then it got re-released on Polydor or something. And I remember going to eat dinner one night, and one of the dudes was waiting tables. And I was 19 or 20 or 21. And I was like, wait a second, I've seen you on TV. Why are you? I don't know. And he ended up becoming a famous movie writer and all that stuff, but it was good for him. But not everybody does that. But it was still, I remember my heart not being able to understand. Wait, you on MTV? How are you not? Of course, now I know.
Why aren't you still on MTV?
Life happens.
Yeah, no shit.
Hey, Greg, thanks, man, for spending some time with us today.
We really appreciate it, dude.
I know it wasn't. Listen, I know this wasn't the most exciting podcast where, I'm not doing this. I'm out with fucking blah 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 doing this thing.
No,
but I'll tell you something. I think there will be musicians who hear this who think, it's heartening to hear a 54-year-old that hasn't become lame, that still is out there rocking with that little baby girl, trying to figure out how to do it, and is dealing with that side of life, but is also still kicking ass as much as I hope to kick ass on stage. You know what I mean? And you guys, when I met you, I remember, are the same way, that you believe in rock and roll. And that's so cheesy, but it's so true.
Exactly.
We're not lame. We're not those lame lemmings that just, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yep.
We're not our dads. I mean, we're 50. I'm 53 years old, but I'm not my dad. I actually.
Well, wait, hold on a second. Hold on. My dad died racing a car at 90 years old. So
there you go. No, but you know what I'm saying though. My dad's cool too. Don't get me wrong. I love my dad to death. But I'm saying, we're still cool people. When we were kids and we remember people that were in their 50s, they were old fogies and they were just, they were boring and, that's not true, And I wish I would have thought, I wish I would have realized that as a kid because, now,
dude, 50... I love talking to you guys because it makes me feel less. Well, that's one reason I think that the Phil and Jer's Rock and Roll Residency was so successful because it brought together all these people who like to rock, and then we were all around each other going, "Fuck, there's more of us than we thought." That's why when I do Mangus, I did a Mangus show in Murfreesboro. There's hundreds of people, and I'm nobody really, but it's people who want to rock. They love to see a rock and roll show. They love to see an old school front man. So anyway, I'm going to have drinks with you guys when you come to town. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Hopefully I'll be singing with the Residency when they open the
right. You're going to be around during the Residency or during the Rock and Pod, right? You're going to be down there hanging out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll absolutely be there.
Definitely.
Stalking Angel.
I'm actually I'm staying Friday and Saturday night, so I'm booked in for the whole weekend, so we're good. So all right, hang around for a little bit. Man, hang around for a minute, and then Alan, take us out of here.
Well, before I take you out of here, everybody that's watching this, my dogs are driving me fucking crazy tonight. I bet they've barked 1,000 times, and I'm beating the shit out of this mute button on. Well, that's because I actually operate my mute button correctly tonight. So I'm sitting here, and Bill sends me a text. Are you okay? It's because my dogs are just a little crazy tonight. I guess it's the spring weather. But anyway, Greg, tell our audience how to find you on social media and the interwebs.
Well, you can go to gregmangus.rocks or just find me on Facebook. Man, it's casual right now, Facebook, and I always announce my gigs coming up just under Greg Mangus. And if you're in Central Tennessee near Nashville, man, I'm playing this Saturday night. I don't know when this thing airs, but we're playing whatever this Saturday is, the 23rd, 22nd, at Little Harper's Brewery, and that's with the Denman guys. That's going to be a show in Sad Wings.
Cool.
It's be on Thursday night, actually, this Thursday. So.
All right. Well, hang tight while I take us out of here.
Yeah, stay around.
Roger that.
Folks, visit us on 80sofrock.com. Check out all of our social media. Catch us on Stitcher Radio. Find us on 105theglobe.com. I was going to say Wednesday, but it's Mondays at 3 Eastern. And on that note, peace out, folks. Thanks for listening to the Ages of Rock podcast. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and most importantly, tell all your friends. Remember, you're never too old to rock. Until the next episode, peace out, folks.